Yes, the boy at the back.
Well, I'm going to ask you about this here because I want your opinion on, what should Peter Dutton then be saying? Because he has said in the past he's going to stick around in Paris because, we're in it, it is too hard to change or whatever. Yet, what I'm really interested in, I don't know geology, but I do know something about economics and business. BP has said we are retreating from net zero. Macquarie Bank and all of these banks around the world are all saying we are pulling back from net zero. We are going to invest in fossil projects again because that's where the money is. And if we don't have energy, we're not going to have economies. Why do you think the coalition seems to be trying to garner votes in these sort of inner city seats where they still care about Paris when it's out in the regions that people are saying, no, we've got to get out of this because it is destroying our communities, it's destroying our economy, it's destroying our future?
Well, Rita touched on it in her editorial. The Parliamentary Liberal Party has wets. They're in the Senate and they're in the lower house. And it's very hard for the leader sometimes to lead on matters of principle, which are going to be for the benefit of the country, when you've got wets who are in the wrong party. Mr Dutton should lead. He should say, as a matter of principle, we want people to have cheap electricity in this country. We don't want these jaw-dropping electricity bills that people are getting because of renewables. We want to have energy supporting industry and creating jobs, and he has to lead. And if he doesn't want to lead, he can then say, well, we have the biggest economy in the world that's dropping net zero. We have growing economies like China and India that are not having net zero. China's building coal-fired power stations like they're going out of fashion. We need to rebuild coal-fired power stations. We need to have nuclear. We need to have a huge amount of baseload power with peak load coming from gas and from hydro. Now, we once had that system. Electricity was cheap. It isn't. And we're all paying. And some people are paying with their jobs. Some farmers are now losing their productive capability because they're getting these massive new power lines put over their properties to bring renewable energy from somewhere out in the donga into the cities, and they can't operate equipment underneath those power lines. So they've lost acreage and they've lost areas which produce food. This is an absolute travesty. A lot of the votes are in the areas around the edge of cities and in semi-rural areas. Mr Dutton should think callously and think, I want to chase the traditional Labor vote. And these people are being destroyed by Labor policies. Why should we have the Libs as a Labor light, which currently they are?
Well, we've seen
We've
seen that political realignment in the US. We've seen it in the UK. We've seen it in Australia. The Liberal Party seems to be the last bunch of people to know that there has been a switch. Those inner city affluent areas are going left and the working middle class are increasingly going right. What about the argument they may put forward? Well, we don't need to leave Paris. We can still have these net zero targets because we'll get there via nuclear. What's your response to that?
Well, that argument is invalid because nuclear is going to take a long time. The second thing is you can leave Paris very, very easily. It's no difficulty at all. And the third thing is we have to think as a punter. And the punter gets an absolute shock when they look at their electricity bill. The quicker you can bring that down, the better. The more coal we can put into the system, the better. We have coal-fired power stations. They are discriminated against because they're black, and we shouldn't have that sort of discrimination, as we're told. And so we are actually destroying systems which can provide us with cheap 24/7 power and making it very expensive. It can be done. Oh, the boy at the back, the cheeky one.
Sir, we saw Albo being heckled by about windmills. Now, Donald Trump has said, that's it, no more windmills. They kill whales, they're inefficient. If you believe in the carbon nonsense, they create as much as they supposedly save. Albo is being heckled. You're right that Labor is so vulnerable because there's so many traditional Labor blue-collar supporters who don't buy this stuff. So, again, why is it that windmills, for example, and Bowen's entire kind of solar panels, explain why this can never work?
Well, Bowen is supporting China with solar panels and windmills, and they're being supported at our expense. It won't work because the sun doesn't shine all the time. That's pretty obvious. That we have wind droughts, so we can't provide electricity 24/7. The second thing is that the actual grunt that you get from wind and solar is not that you get from coal and nuclear and gas. So if you want power for an industrial economy, sea breezes and sunbeams don't do it. They don't have enough energy. Now, Mr. Bowen is a very interesting character because he's the best thing the Liberals have got, and he should stay there following this ridiculous ideology with people in marginal seats looking at their electricity bill saying, I'm going to vote on my electricity bill. And that can be capitalised on by the opposition. And it's a vote winner.